Okay, follow us.
Hey, there we are.
Right, Deon Joubert, we're in the car, and this is a special car because Mercedes-Benz have proudly manufactured this car in South Africa.
I love this car. Eh?
Edition
Really great
6.
car. Yeah.
All right, so this is I would gather, a very tough track to navigate in the wet.
Well, the obviously yes, but all racetracks are different and harder in the rain.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do is to see puddling, because any standing water makes it very difficult to drive on. And then generally drive, what we actually do in the rain is drive offline almost.
Okay.
So because the line of the track often is full of rubber, so not a good place to be when it's raining.
Because you'd think you'd want that for grip, but you don't.
You don't specifically, and then you can also see how the track is showing you that there's sort of dull areas where the tar is drier. And what also happens, and this is very valid on the road as well, is when a car is running in front of you, it actually clears the water out, and you can see tracks, and it's good to drive in those tracks.
Yes.
So when you're driving in the rain, you sort of throw away all of the normal things that you do.
Yeah.
Sabina Rick actually taught me a big lesson in
Really?
Kailami. Yeah, it was the only time she was quicker than me in the rain, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
But that woman had so much experience of driving in the rain at the Nürburgring and stuff, you know, which we don't really get that often because South Africa isn't that rainy.
Yeah.
So you might have a 1 or 2 wet sessions, but then it dries and you're back on a drying track, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's very interesting to watch the Formula One guys when the session gets dry. The guy that's out last is actually the fastest, just because the track is improving so much.
Got you.
So you can see now, if we were trying to do a lap right now, it would obviously be very difficult because of all the standing water and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, if this rain stops, 10 minutes from now, suddenly the circuit could be literally 5 or 6 seconds faster, you know.
Wow. Also what I've noticed from the driver's seat of the car is because of the water that's sitting, there's glass-like. It's glass-like. You can't really see the lines
The glass is the sort of standing water that's reflecting, if you like.
Yeah.
So you can see that dull place on the tar there.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a place to drive, you know.
To get your car to.
Yes, it would be totally different to driving in the dry, which you'll be over on the inside there, but there's puddles there and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It also depends on your tires. So the thing with a wet weather tire is it's got grooves, but the more important thing is that its compound is so soft that it can heat up in these, because you know you've heard of them saying they want to heat the tires up.
Yes.
So that compound can heat up even in these very cold conditions, and then chemically grip on the track. And the grooves displace the water, but the grooves aren't, I mean, they're important, but they're not that important. It's more the softness. Yeah. So if you see a real slick wet, you can almost pull the rubber off it with your hands when it's new. And the problem with funny enough, the problem with wet tires in South Africa is you buy them, and then they basically just get old in the garage.
Because you never use them.
You never use them, yeah.
And then obviously you can't use it.
In our touring cars, we had a terrible problem with misting because the car has no carpets and anything like that.
Yeah.
And when you go through a puddle,
the water comes through.
Steam, basically.
Yes,
and you can't see anything. So then BMW got us heated front windscreens at huge expense, which were in the car for a year, and they got chipped and broken, so we just got standard windscreens again. Then it rains again. You know? So we literally have one serious rain event maybe every 2 years, and then everything kind of falls apart, and it becomes quite a big lottery because we don't have the right tires, and you know.
Yeah.
So oftentimes with a less of a tire choice, it's almost better to be on a slick than on a very hard groove tire. It depends on the standing water and stuff like that, you know.
When you're riding, and this is, I guess, pertains not only to track, but on the road, there's a lot of kickback from the car in front, especially when you're obviously following.
You're talking about spray.
Kickback spray. How does, in a racing track, obviously it's a lot different because you're kind of trying to judge where you are.
So the funny thing is, in the rain, you know, you might get overtaken by somebody and you're going, what? You know, why am I so slow? And then the next thing he falls off the track. And then he's done, you know. So on the road, obviously, the main thing is you want to get home safely. You're
Yes.
not interested in a lap or
No.
risking anything. So the real thing is just to slow down.
Sure.
The best advice you can give anybody in wet weather conditions is to slow down.
Just to drive slowly.
Visibility is worse.
Absolutely.
There's possibility of aquaplaning.
Yeah.
And obviously your brakes don't work so well. Anything like that. So just slow down.
Yes.
Because you cannot drive the same speed in the rain as you can in the dry. It's
Gotcha.
clear, you know.
Then what do you do when you start to feel like, and I'm not talking about it on the road, on the racetrack, when you feel that obviously this is it, the car's now, I've hit a bit of water, I'm losing.
So that's
feed
called
off?
aquaplaning.
Right.
And what's happened is the car is basically riding on top of a puddle. The grooves can't clear the water.
Got you.
And it's now on top of the water, and it's going to get out of that water at some point.
Got you.
And when it gets out of that water, you want the car to be as straight as possible, because the front wheels are always going to come out first, and if they skew, the back wheels are still on. The basically the in the water. So even on the road or anywhere, there's really nothing you can do. You're actually just a passenger at that point, but you want to keep everything straight.
Yes.
And be ready for what happens when you get out of the puddle, you know.
Got you.
And the faster you're going, the more that's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. What are good times in the wet here at Kalani?
Okay, that's that completely depends on the. But I would have said the track is probably something like 10 seconds slower in driving range.
Okay, got you.
And then anywhere in between, depending on the conditions, and obviously there's like a wet weather setup, because in the wet the car isn't rolling as much, it's not gripping as much.
Yeah.
So you want to maybe change the car, but funny enough, in general, our engineers didn't want to change the car because it would dry again.
Yes.
We don't really have these. When I was in Europe, the rain sets in and it's there.
Yeah.
Instead, it was very hard to judge how quickly the track's going to get dry. But in South Africa, you can.
Spells.
And it's drier and so on. East London's a terrible place for rain.
I can imagine.
It's shocking there. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, listen, it's been interesting taking a lap around with you and just getting the ins and outs of riding in wet weather. Fortunately enough, it doesn't happen too often in South Africa that we have to drive specifically on a racetrack in wet weather. But these kind of insights are what you can expect with this man over here, racing legend Deon Joubert. Like, subscribe, and join us for more content from the world of motor racing.